well, obviously I'm really honored to be here with you guys today and you guys at home. And I do want to talk a little bit about my experience getting money or not getting money when I was first starting my business. So 5 years ago, I started a office composting service. And of course, when we went to the banks, we didn't really have a lot of luck. I was pretty young, I didn't own a home. My background was in television, which was very different from the waste industry, which is not what banks really want to hear. So I had to be a little bit more creative. And of course, Deb is going to talk a lot about working with banks and making them advocates, which is really important. I have a great relationship with my bank now, but 5 years ago, they wouldn't give me 2 pennies to rub together. So what I ended up doing was we reached out to what's known as Small Business BC, and Bridget's here, and she can talk more about that as well. And they worked with us to build a business plan, and then that connected us with Futurepreneur Canada. Futurepreneur is a fantastic organization. I know they're here today too. And we ended up getting a $15,000 loan to start our business. $15,000 is not a lot of money. I did work for a year working in nightclubs to pay for starting our business because I couldn't take a salary out of the business. But we ended up starting the right business at the right time. We did over $100,000 worth of service in our first year of the company, doubled it the next, and continued to grow. One thing that really drove our growth, though, was pitching on Dragon's Den, which is kind of extreme. But if you're thinking about doing it, I highly recommend it. Now, how many of you guys have pitched before to like a banker, to an investor, a VC? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. So some of you guys are experienced with this, and you're going to probably connect with some of the stuff I talk about today. But one of the main things to remember when you're pitching to an investor, well, I will say we did well on Dragon's Den. We got 3 offers, one of which actually was from Kevin, which I was not expecting, considering we were a green company. And I was actually almost a little bit disappointed that he didn't tell me I was going to be a cockroach, because I had prepared for that. I had such a good answer, and then he never said it. So, I mean, I was almost disappointed, but not really that disappointed. But it ended up being a really great experience. We pitched on the show. Afterwards, we ended up doubling our business. We didn't need an investment at that point. Since then, we've had over 1,100 people from around the world applied to open up a Growing City franchise. And actually, I didn't realize this, but they just played the episode in Finland this week. I've had a bunch of people email me from Finland, who knew, that are fans of Growing City, which is great. So if any of you are sitting there thinking, I want to raise money for my business, Dragon's Den is a great way to get exposure for that. Futurepreneur, great way to get some cash. They'll lend you up to $50,000 now. When I started a little too soon, 15K, now 50 grand, much better. So connect with Futurepreneur as well. But one of the things that I really learned when I was pitching on Dragon's Den is that investors and partners are 2 very different things. And so the approach when you're asking them for money has to be different, because investors don't necessarily have the emotional investment that a partner has. A partner is going to work with you in the trenches. They're either familiar with the business, or they're familiar with you, or they've been in the industry, and they want to get their hands dirty, and they're going to be there in the day-to-day. And you can call them whenever you want, and they're going to be with you for a long period of time, usually, hopefully. Investors, on the other hand, are working on a much shorter timeline. So they don't necessarily want to hold a piece of your business for 20 years. They want their money in, and then they want their money back out. Usually they're looking in between 2 and 5 years. So what they want to hear from you is, how are you going to multiply the revenue or the money that they give you in order for them to get a return? How much is that return going to be? And what's the timeline for it? So they need to know what's the exit strategy, either for you or for them. So for example, when I was doing due diligence with one of the dragons, one of the things that they said was that he expected to get bought out by me within about 2 years. So for a lot of people, they're not expecting that side of it when they're working with an investor. They're expecting that it's going to be kind of like a partner, that this is someone that they can work with for indefinitely to grow their business. So being prepared for that and being able to say when you're going into pitch, I know what you want, which is to make more money. And this is how I'm going to do it is key. The other thing that they really want to know is, how specifically are you going to take that money that you're getting from them to grow your business? Is it a piece of equipment you're going to buy? Is it that you're going to hire someone in a specific region that's going to grow your sales? What percentage will they grow your sales by? They really want to know the nitty-gritty. So the more detailed of a plan you have, and Deb's going to talk about this too when you go through your business plan, the more information you can give them, the more they're going to have confidence and trust in giving that money to you. So remember, number one, investors, not partners, tell them what they want to hear. Number two, a big part of that is you got to know your numbers. People talk about this all the time, know your numbers. And I know you guys have talked about that a little bit earlier today about knowing your key business metrics. And the thing is, you have to have them memorized. You don't necessarily need to understand them backwards and forwards, but you need to be able to recite them, and you have to have a basic understanding of them. I've judged a lot of business competitions where you've got a great entrepreneur on stage, they're pitching their business, everything looks great, I love it, and then I say to them, how much money did you make last year? And they say, ooh, let me ask my accountant. And instantly they lost, because you need to know that. It's not going to make me trust that you are in control of your business if you can't tell me all those basic metrics. And one thing, I've actually written a course on how to pitch on Dragon's Den. I have a chapter on what questions investors with the Dragons particularly are looking for. So I'm going to talk to Christina and we'll send you guys that chapter. So at least you can write it down and memorize it, because you need to have it in your back pocket. Just like you need to have your elevator pitches in your back pocket. I know you guys worked on that today with Judy or Christina. Very, very important. Beyond that, probably the most important thing that most women tend to struggle with is investors, at the end of the day, are investing in you. You are the differentiator. You are the reason that they're either going to love you and give you money or say, thanks, see you later. And the thing that women struggle with is confidence. So you need to learn how to project confidence. I'm not saying you have to be confident, because women tend to struggle with that. And it makes sense because we grew up hearing that women are not good leaders, and women are bad in business, and business is a man's world. And so we internalize that, and we start to doubt ourselves. We start doubting our decisions. We don't truly believe in the value of our business, or we get a little insecure about it. And when you're pitching your business to an investor, they can sense that insecurity. They can feel that. And if they don't feel like you're confident, then why are they going to give you money? They're not going to. But here's the thing. You can fake confidence. It's really true. You don't have to be confident. People tell you all the time, be confident, be confident. Well, easier said than done. A lot of us have our own life experiences that we're working on it, and confidence is a journey. But if we have to go pitch to investors next week or 2 weeks from now, that's not a lot of time to work on our inner selves, but we can cheat. And a big part of that is rehearsal, practice. So there's a really easy thing that you guys can do to practice projecting confidence. And you want to start filming yourself. And don't worry, no one else will ever see this if you don't want them to. It's for you. And if you're one of those people that really doesn't want to see themselves on camera, start with audio and then go from there, right? Film yourself speaking your pitch. When you're comfortable listening to that, then you want to go to video, because body language is a huge descriptor of confidence. People pick up on so many cues. So what you want to do is film yourself going into the room, shaking hands, saying hello, introducing your pitch, sitting down, and then you want to watch it back. And you want to look for things. You want to try to look at yourself objectively. Pretend it's not you. Pretend you're watching TV, and be pretty honest with yourself. And ask yourself, is this a confident woman? Is she making eye contact? Is she fidgeting? How is she using her voice? Is she talking softly, or is she talking with authority? Is she playing with her hair, or is she shaky a little bit? And don't judge yourself about it. It's not a bad thing. You don't have to criticize yourself at all. It's not about that. This is about cheating. So you want to watch yourself objectively. And then what you want to do is visualize who is your confidence icon. There's tons of, it doesn't have to be a woman, it could be a man, but when you close your eyes and you think to yourself, who is somebody that I would just aspire to be, that walks into a room and exudes confidence? We all know one person that does this. They walk in and people gravitate towards them. They shake someone's hand and people are listening. You know, they perk up. What is it that that person's doing that we can, what we say in business R&D, which is rip off and duplicate, and apply to ourselves? Because that's a big part of it. So once you have this person in your mind, and for me, mine is actually Martha Stewart. People can say what they want about Martha Stewart, but you can never deny she's a confident lady. So I always like to imagine, what would Martha do in this situation? It's really important. But obviously you guys have your own person, right? You have your own confidence icon. And what you want to do is then visualize, how would they walk into the room? How would they do the pitch? How would they shake that person's hand? What would they be wearing? How would they conduct themselves? How would they answer those questions? And once you have a good handle on it, you've visualized it, you've imagined it, then record yourself again as that person doing the pitch. Walk in, be confident, do the exact same thing, and then watch the videos back to back. See if you can see a difference. And what your goal is, you want to practice enough until it becomes very natural. And you want to be able to look at that video objectively and say, does this woman know what she's talking about? Yes. That's a calm, cool, confident woman. She uses her voice. She speaks with authority. I trust that person and I like her. And the reason why this is so important is because it doesn't matter if you're going to pitch to the dragons. Well, it really matters when you're going to pitch to dragons. But if you're going to them, if you're going to the bank, if you're going into a networking situation, at the end of the day, beyond knowing your numbers, beyond understanding what people are looking for regarding investment, confidence is king. And if you don't have that, people won't trust you, they won't work with you. So it sounds kind of hokey, but I think the biggest thing that I could recommend to you guys when you're pitching or when you're trying to get money from anybody is you need to walk in there and own the space. And you don't have to feel that on the inside. I won't tell anybody, but you have to project it on the outside. The good thing is if you practice long enough, you can fake it till you make it. You will start to believe it yourself, and you won't have to practice forever. But I'll keep it short and sweet. Feel free, please ask me questions afterwards. I'm really excited for all of you guys. And I will say, being an entrepreneur is probably the best thing that I've ever done, so congratulations all of you for taking that leap and changing your lives. Thank you.
So questions for Lisa, and if you can just...
Oh, sorry, yes, I'm still here.
That's okay.
Any questions so far?
I don't have a question, but
Sure.
I would like to say that the whole confidence talk, I know it can kind of be like, oh, I don't know, I want to really fake it, and I don't want to do this. But on the other hand, your last statement is absolutely true. Going from a non-confident person to a confident person, it is once you start practicing and the whole listening to your voice and all of that. I've seen it happen not just with myself, but with our clients that we did. And you do, it's not even about faking it till you make it, because probably that's true for a while. But then you really learn how to do it. You've really trained yourself how to do it, and then you do believe in yourself. So
Yeah.
You're faking for a little tiny short bit, but really then you just, believe in yourself. It's pretty
Yeah, exactly.
It's like an experiment to see how it goes.
I think I might be getting this wrong, I might be paraphrasing this wrong, but I'm pretty sure Buddha said, your thoughts become your reality. So you can fake it into reality by acting that way. And it's something that women, I think, need to work on, especially more than men. We need to spend more of our time doing it, and we need to spend more of our time trusting in our decisions. That's one issue that I think women really struggle with, related to confidence, is that we doubt the value of our business. Sometimes that means we don't ask for the proper value of the business. We undervalue what we do. We're afraid of asking for money because we don't trust that we're offering something that has meaning. So that's definitely an area that I think is true. We have to push ourselves a little bit more in order to compete. Yeah.
I have a question. So, and maybe it's more just to build to clarify for everyone, and I'm just curious anyway. You pitched on Dragon's Den, you were pitching for equity financing,
Yes.
presumably. And maybe first you can explain, just in simple terms,
Yes.
what is that versus debt financing, and then I'll have a follow-up question.
Yes, that's great.
Okay.
Yes, I skipped that part. Okay, so when you're pitching to investors, generally they're going to want a piece of equity. They want to own a piece of your business. So for example, when I was pitching, I said my business, I want $100,000 cash for 25% of my company. So I picked something very reasonable that I could easily defend. And that's something that you want to make sure you're doing when you're pitching to an investor as well, is make sure that you can defend it. So you can back it up either with sales or intellectual property information or patents or strategic hires or whatever you can do. And that's really key. But that means that that investor is giving me money. I don't have to pay it back. It's mine forever, or the company's. But we're married now. They own a piece of that company. We're in this together until either I buy them out or they sell their shares. So that's one way of doing it. And then Debbie is going to talk about the bank, which is debt financing, which is actually cheaper because you're not giving up ownership of your company. You take on that debt, that's money that you have to pay back. It's not yours forever. You use it to amplify your growth. But once you pay it off, you're still either the sole owner of your business or whoever your existing partners or shareholders were beforehand. So there's pros and cons to both. Investors are great because you don't get to give that money, well, you don't have to give that money back, but they will pressure you to grow within that specific time frame. So that 2 to 5 years, they're going to push you to accelerate your growth, which might not necessarily be the best bet for you guys. Depends on your business and what you're in. Debt financing is great because it's you don't give up control. It can be harder to qualify for though. But Deb will tell you more about that.
And then my follow-up question, so if you asked for $100,000 for
Yes.
25% of your business,
Yes.
presumably you were saying your business is worth $400,000.
That's right, yes.
So how, and you were saying, there's a lot of ways to value or to
Yeah.
come up with the value. Can you maybe walk us through simply?
Sure.
How did you at that point feel your business is worth $400,000? Because that concept of valuation, in our extended eSeries, we go through this a lot more. We're going, we're glazing over a 4 days worth of topic, but I just want to make sure we hit on these key highlights, and then you'll know where there's other stuff you might want to delve into.
Cool.
So how would you come up with a $400,000 valuation for Growth City at that time?
Yes, so we were doing about $212,000 in sales at that point. We had a normalized EBITDA of around $80,000, but what I'll say,
Hold on, back up.
sorry, okay. Earnings before interest, taxation, appreciation, depreciation. I make those backwards. And I had to memorize that because I didn't want to learn it, but you learn it as you go. Anyway, so it's pretty much how much money did you net after you, or before you've paid taxes, before you've done amortization, depreciation, what's the last one? Earnings before interest, and interest as well. So how much money did you make before you had to pay all those? Now when I say normalized, what I mean is we had specific one-off costs that year. So we had spent $20,000 hiring a business consultant. So what we did is we had a little flexibility. We said, that's not something that we're expecting to pay year over year. It was a one-time thing to help us grow the business. So we're going to pretend that we took that off and see what our earnings would have been, to give us a more representative picture of what we would do next year when we don't have to spend that money. So we had a baseline of what we made over what our sales were, so our net profit. And then what we did was we looked at the industry we were in and we said, what is a typical multiplier for the waste industry if we were to sell the business? So for example, if you are in, like we were, the waste industry, it's on average like a 4 times multiplier over net profit. So if you're a big company, private. Most waste companies are private, but it varies, very much varies depending on the industry. And we were being ultra conservative because I did not want to go in front of the dragons and get nailed for valuations, like the worst, because you want to make a big ad for your company. You don't want to spend the whole time talking about how you came up with your valuation. So you probably have more flexibility if you're not going to be on TV. But it's important to know essentially what your business would sell for in the regular industry outside of that. So know what your multiplier is. So for us, we took our normalized earnings that year, we multiplied it by our industry multiplier, and then we had certain things that were a little bit intangible that we put value to, which would be contracts that we had pending, so potential revenue from that, strategic experience. So for example, my background, I was valuable as an employee because I'd worked a lot within key industry areas like television and marketing, things like that, which added intangible value to the business. That gave us a little bit more flexibility when asking, so we could increase the value of the company by that. So certain things that are intangible that you guys could look at when you're valuing your business are, do you have patents that other people can't use? Do you have certain intellectual property that exists only in your business that your competitors couldn't have access to? Do you have partners or people that are employees that are connected to your company that are really valuable in the industry or very strategic that will amplify the growth of your company? do you own certain regions or market share or a variety of other things like that, which obviously you can go into much more depth with over time. But essentially, there's a lot of variables on how you can grow or value your business, but the average is what's your net profit, what's your industry multiplier, add in any potential contracts or sales agreements that are pending, and any intangibles, and then go from there. It's very, very bottom line. Yes?
You talk about the industry multiplier. Is that
Yes.
something you Google?
That one is a little bit more tricky. We actually reached out to a company, KMPG, who work with mergers and acquisitions on businesses, but you can also reach out to key people like Debbie, actually, at the bank, who might have experience in looking at industry multipliers and being able to find out that information. It's definitely a little bit trickier, but there's websites online where you can take a look at companies that have sold and for how much, and then work from there. But it is, especially if you're working in looking at private companies or industries where they are mostly private, it is a little bit harder to find that information. People like to keep that on the DL. Yeah.
We have time for one more.
Yeah.
Yes, can I make a couple of comments just
Sure.
because I think you brought up some good information and then ask a question? Is that
Of
okay?
course.
So just around their Futurepreneur, which was formerly CYBF,
Yeah.
is Lisa was saying that now it's, I think it's 40 or 50 now.
50.
Yeah, but you do have to be under 39 years old. So it's Futurepreneur, not oldpreneur. But that's a great source of money. And then the other one that I don't think you mentioned, Lisa, so if I could take
Sure.
a minute to mention it, would be Women's Enterprise Center.
Yes.
And can you, so the interesting thing about a Futurepreneur or a Women's Enterprise Center is they are a loan. They're not a loan to the bank. And so the rate that you pay it back with is quite a bit different, but you're not going to get as much funding as you could potentially get from a bank.
Yes.
So I just wanted to mention those things.
Sure.
And there's, and then my question around that is, having now gone through the experience and in reflection, because that's all business is about, what would you have done differently? So take Dragon's Den out of it, because that's just a one-off experience.
Sure, yes.
What could you or would you have done differently, do you think, or if you were to start a new company again?
Yes. One thing I will add before I answer that question, because I think it's true what you're saying about Women's Enterprise Network and Futurepreneur, is they are excellent ways of getting bank financing later. Because if you can do that first, when you go to the bank, you can leverage your work with them or the fact that they've lent you money as validation for your business model, because you have to pass certain qualifications in order to get money from Futurepreneur or Women's Enterprise Network. So if you were in a situation like me, which I was, after I got the money from Futurepreneur, I went back to the bank and I said, look, these guys are lending me money, you should too. And, and that really helped. So what I needed to do was do that first and then go back. I bought a vehicle on a line of credit, which you should never ever do, but you learn the hard way. Also, I paid cash for a vehicle, which you also should never do. Leasing is a lot better. So those were two things that were, not great. And the other thing is that you want to make sure that you get a great partner at the bank who knows about the different lending opportunities that the government has or Women's Enterprise Network. Find someone that's knowledgeable, because our first bank person was not ideal, and they didn't there's a lot of programs to buy equipment that the government will loan you money for, so we never needed to buy a vehicle on our line of credit. That was a huge mistake, and our banks didn't know the various programs, which turned out to be a big liability. So find someone that is up to speed on programs, that knows what's out there for you, and that's going to be able to help you qualify for them. Having that bank person as a partner is invaluable, because you're always going to need more money, and it always costs more than you think it's going to cost. So those are two things that I would definitely do differently, and just have more of an awareness of what's out there in terms of opportunities for financing ahead of time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.